Hello, and welcome to another episode of Some of Our Parts, the podcast where two friends talk about the movies that add up to make us who we are. I'm Lindsay,
And I'm Jim.
and this week it is my pick. I am picking a movie that I think is iconic, perhaps one of my favorites of all time. If you know me, you know I love this movie. It is Romy and Michelle's high school reunion.
So, Lindsay, I have to ask. So, it came out in 1997, and I just wanted to know now, were you able to see this in the movie theaters, or was it a little bit later on when you actually saw the movie?
So I don't remember exactly, but I know that I saw it when I was a kid, but not in the movie theater. So I
Oh,
think probably I watched it with my dad like on TV or we rented it at Blockbuster, which I really miss. I wish that we still had an experience like Blockbuster. But in any case, I watched it when I was a kid, so I watched it not too long after it came out, probably within a couple of years, but definitely not in theaters.
okay. So,
Yeah, but and of course I've watched it several times since then, and I think as a kid, there are things I could appreciate about it. I still thought it was funny. I knew like Lisa Kudrow from Friends and Alan Cumming from Spice World, which we talked about before, and like then he was in like Spy Kids, so he was in a lot of things. Janine Garofalo from things like Mystery Men. So I knew a lot of these people from other things that they were in, so I think that added to my enjoyment. And I think it's just like kind of funny and silly and like they wear cool outfits. And of course, as I've gotten older and watched it, I can appreciate it a little bit more, right? I get all the jokes in a way that I didn't when I was a kid. I love this movie to the point that for people who know me, they know I have two cats who are sisters and their names are Romy and Michelle. So when I was getting two cats, I had to have like a good pair name. And when I found out I was getting two girls, I was like, well, Romy and Michelle. Romy and Michelle it is. So people always think it's weird when I say I have a cat named Michelle, but it's the Romy and Michelle combo. And I think if you're familiar with the movie also, I named them well because Romy is sort of like the mischievous one who would come up with the plans, and Michelle is kind of along for the ride,
I was just going
with
to ask
her.
you, do your cats sort of fit the personalities of the characters that you named them after?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so. Romy is the one who's like, okay, here's what we're doing. And Michelle's just like, okay. She's a little more fearful than Michelle is in the movie, but they definitely have that vibe. They have that dynamic. I named them correctly.
In the movie, did you identify with either one of the characters more so, or lean towards one of them?
I think I don't know how I felt before, but I do think like watching it now, as bad as it sounds, I do feel like more like Michelle. Not in like being dumb, but I do think in her sense of like, oh, like it hadn't occurred to me that like things were bad. Like her sort of like optimism, which is in maybe in some ways a little bit like of an ignorance is bliss kind of vibe. I do think that like I feel that way a lot. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I thought everything was fine until proven otherwise is sort of where I'm at. And I think I don't care as much about what other people think is Romy. Not certainly not to the extent of the scheme she was hatching in this.
Which actually was, I thought it was a pretty inventive and imaginative scheme when you think about it.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, definitely not like what my first thought would be. Although I do think that I like have good ideas. I do think sometimes I am a good idea person, whereas Michelle kind of like goes along, but I do think I also am like pretty go with the flow with my friends too. Had you seen this movie before?
I had not. I'd certainly heard of it, and like you,
Hmm.
I was a big fan of Friends and Lisa Kudrow, and really enjoyed her character on the show. I knew
Hmm.
who Mira Sorvino was, more familiar with her father, Paul
Hmm.
Sorvino,
Hmm.
a very talented and great actor.
Hmm.
But I knew she had just done Mighty Aphrodite,
Yeah.
which she was nominated and did win the Academy Award for,
Hmm. Hmm.
although I had not seen that movie, just to be honest with you. But looking at when I saw this movie, when I watched it, there were, again, like you said, there was a lot of people in there that I do like that I've seen later on
Yeah.
who do a lot of things. I just had no idea, that they were all in the movie. Alan Cumming, like you said, Cameron Manheim,
Mhm.
who's, currently on the new Law and Order,
Yes,
and
yes, at the
is
time on The Practice.
Janine Garofalo, like you said, had been, like if you look at movies from the '90s and the early 2000s, she's in a lot of movies, and a very talented and a very good actor. Yeah, my first impression though, when I first saw them, and I know that they were supposed to be high schoolers, but how young they looked. All of them, Alan and Cameron
Mhm.
Manheim and Lisa and uh,
Yeah. I
Mira Sorvino.
loved Cameron Manheim with the braces
Oh my
during the high
gosh.
school flashbacks.
And her name, Toby.
Toby,
Toby.
yes.
So it was kind of I think maybe that time of period when people were naming their children, sort of not offbeat names, but unusual names.
Yeah. They had a lot
So
of they had a lot of gender neutrals, right? Like Sandy, Toby.
hmm Kim.
Mhm. Then you had,
So
like, Billy and Christy
yeah.
and Heather Mooney. I think if I
Oh,
ever get another cat, I wanna get a black cat to
and
go
name
with
it
my 2
Heather
and
Mooney.
name it Heather Mooney.
And I think you'd have to call it Heather Mooney, don't you, instead of just
First
Heather?
and last, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's got to be the
'Cause I
two
feel like they
together.
called her Heather Mooney
I know
a
they always
lot.
referred to her in that it's Heather. It was always Heather Mooney as opposed to the other ones. It was just Billy and so on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's touch on that. So this is the cast, right? So Mira
hmm
Sorvino plays Romy. As you mentioned, her dad is Paul Sorvino, who's a famous actor who died not too long ago. She was
hmm
in Mighty Aphrodite. She won an Oscar for. She was in Summer of Sam, Gods and Generals. She was also recently on Celebrity Jeopardy, like
Jeopardy.
last year, and on Dancing with the Stars. Which, if you know Gemini, you know we are tuned in.
hmm
I was rooting for her. She did not make it as far as I hoped for her to make. She also did not do the dance from this movie, which I hoped for her to do, but you know, it is what it is. I think she did a dance two time after time though. In any case, they missed an opportunity not reenacting the dance from the end of this movie. But anyways, Lisa Kudrow plays Michelle. Obviously, as we mentioned, she was in Friends. Before that, she actually did a little bit of guest spots on Mad About You. She's been in The Opposite of Sex is a movie, The Comeback series on HBO. She's also been in Easy A, the Neighbors movies, Booksmart, Analyze This, Analyze That. She's got a lot of like high school and college like related
hmm
movies and stuff. Janine Garofalo is Heather Mooney. She was in, I feel like, every like 90s thing. Reality Bites, Mystery Man, The Cable Guy, Now and Then, Dogma, The Truth About Cats and Dogs, Wet Hot American Summer. She does the voice of the French lady in Ratatouille. She's also been on The West Wing and 24 and lots of other TV shows and movies. Alan Cumming plays Sandy Frank. He's obviously done a lot of stage work. Cabaret, famously, he's played the MC in Cabaret several times. He currently hosts The Traders on Peacock. As I mentioned, he was in Spice World. Listen to our episode on Spice World if you haven't. He was in Spy Kids, Goldeneye, Emma, Battle of the Sexes. He was on The Good Wife, Schmigadoon, X2, Josie and the Pussycats, which is another movie on my list that we will talk about at some point.
Okay.
Julia Campbell plays Christy Masters. She has been in like I think TV movies and TV guest spots since this consistently. She's also I think you know the movie Kicking and Screaming with Will Ferrell, where like
hmm
him and his dad Robert Duvall they are coaching soccer against each other. I think
Right.
she's the dad's new wife.
Oh, okay.
Um, Vincent Ventresca plays Billy Christensen, who's like the high school crush. He has been in a lot of like small things too. He had a bit part in Saving Private Ryan. He was on TV shows Boston Common, The Invisible Man, Prey. He had a little guest spot on Friends as a guy named Fun Bobby.
He was one of the boyfriends, wasn't he, of the
Yeah.
of one of the
Hmm.
leads?
Yes, yes, yes. He was a boyfriend. Cameron Manheim plays Toby Walters. As we said, she was on The Practice. She's done, I think, I feel like she's done mostly like TV work. I
hmm
associate her with more TV. So The Practice, then she was on Ghost Whisperer, Person of Interest, and now she's like the captain on the new kind of reinvention of Law and Order. Elaine Hendricks is Lisa Luter, so she's one of the 4 girls in the A group. If you also are a millennial like me, you know that she is also Meredith in The Parent Trap, the Lindsay Lohan Parent Trap. So she's like the evil new
Mm.
stepmom. And she's also, if you've ever seen Superstar with Molly Shannon, where she's Mary Catherine Gallagher, Elaine Hendricks plays Evian, who's like the mean girl in that too. That's also on my list. We'll get there at some point
Mm.
when we do the weird SNL movies. One of the other A group people, one of them is like, I don't think she's ever been in anything. One of the other ones, if you are a True Blood fan, you will recognize her as Pam from True Blood, Kristen Bauer. She's one of the other like 4 A group girls. Other people you might recognize, especially if you've watched the other movies we've talked about, the guy Ramon, who is the service like mechanic guy at the Jaguar dealership where Romy works. He is played by Jacob Vargas, who is also Selena's brother, AB Quintanilla in Selena. And the cowboy, the smoking cowboy, you might recognize as Justin Theroux, who I think for me comes to mind as used to be married to Jennifer Aniston for a while. But he's in a bunch of movies like Wanderlust. He was in the second Charlie's Angels movies. And he's been on White House Plumbers, The Leftovers. And he writes. He co-wrote Tropic Thunder, Iron Man 2, and Rock of Ages, which I didn't know.
Mm.
But in any case, a lot of recognizable people in the cast, which I
And
think is one thing to really like about this movie. It's just like so many people uh, all working together and all being very funny together.
especially looking back as you look back and you, oh, I know that person. Oh, I know that person. I know that, you know, and their names may not come to mind right away, but their faces do certainly. And then they haven't, it's not so long ago. I mean, it's what, 27 years
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
since this movie came out. So, but you can
Yes.
still recognize them. It's not like oh my God, I don't know who that is. You know,
Yeah. Yeah,
it's,
for sure. And I mean, like I said, most of them I think either were in some really like impact, like well-known things, or they're like still in a lot of things.
still
Um,
active.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that there are people that are very recognizable. I think that's a fun aspect of this movie. I love a movie where it's just like, oh my God, like all these people are in it. And they're
Hmm.
all like good. Everybody, even when they don't have a ton going on, like they're funny in their moments when they show up, right? Like Cameron Manheim shows up to be like, hey guys, and to get told to F off by Janine Garofalo. Um, And like Justin Theroux, you don't hear him speak until like the end of the movie, but it's still funny when he does.
Well, and Alan Cumming, I thought was, you know, I've always been a big fan of his, and just the way his character developed. And again, he's not in the movie a whole lot. There's
No.
bits and pieces, but when he is, I just think he really kind of steals the camera a little bit, I think.
Yeah,
So, um,
definitely. No, I
especially
think
during the one fantasy
when he has the
sequence,
face,
we'll talk about
that
that as you recap
the
the
face.
movie, the oh my gosh, yeah, the
I will say the prosthetics work in this movie, good. For a movie that's not really based around prosthetics, good work in this movie.
and I wanted to know who designed the costumes, who did the wardrobe, because that was a big part I think of the movie coming out of their innovative designs and so on and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think that whoever did that, they really did a good job,
Yeah, absolutely.
because it was
Uh,
almost a combination of 60s and 80s. I mean, to me, it was like some of it was going back to like the disco era, not the disco era, the 60s and so on and so forth, with the mini skirts, and then some of the material, you know, the shiny stuff and stuff like that. So
mhm. Oh, you know what? This makes perfect sense. It has the same costume designer as Clueless,
there you go.
Mona May.
Mm,
Shout out to Mona May.
mm-hmm.
Oh
And
my
who?
God. She's done like every movie I love.
There you
Clueless,
go.
Romy and Michelle, The Wedding Singer, A Night at the Roxbury, and Never Been Kissed. What a run. What a
Mm,
run, Mona May.
has Mona ever been acknowledged for her work? And if not, we should do a write-in, or at least get her an honorable mention.
I don't know, but yeah, because it's talking about like her her like legacy, like Clueless, like the
Hmm.
yellow, just the even just the yellow suit that Cher wears in Clueless
It's
is like
iconic.
people wear it in like music videos, right? People wear it for Halloween. Karl Lagerfeld like bit off this, Versace, like
There you go. A very, very talented person, evidently.
for sure. And I think, as it says on her Wikipedia, like in the 90s, there was a lot of like grunge happening, and this her designs, like in Clueless and in this movie, are like a shift to a more sort of like
Mm.
feminine style that was like a little bit different from the sort of grunge area that some people were going into. But that just I love when you read something like that and it's like, it all makes sense.
Hmm.
Like it all comes together. All
But
these movies I love, like the costumes were done by the same person, of course.
I almost saw the light go off above your head.
It just like
Yeah.
it just makes sense. But yeah, I think that the costumes are one of the reasons why I love this movie. I think just like the looks, like just the way they do their hair and like their huge chunky heels and like their little dresses with like the kind of crazy accessories. I just love them. And I wish that people dress like that today. At some point I'm gonna have to like dress up as them for Halloween. But I think that to me is one of the pieces. I think the soundtrack is great too. There's a lot
Hmm.
of great both 90s music and 80s music because obviously it's like it takes place in 1997, but they were in high school in 1987, so we get a
Hmm.
lot of like flashbacks and some throwback soundtrack to that era. So I think very fun music. They're so funny. And I think also if you've been listening to this show, you know that a theme of a lot of my picks are just like female friendships. That's kind of my thing as a woman with friends who are women. And I mean, I've had my best friends I've known since long before high school, but like we all went to high school together. So we talk about high school a lot because that's like one of the last times that we were like consistently always together was in high
Hmm.
school. So I think that it's relatable in that way. And I also think that like everybody has this sort of like reflection on high school, good, bad, or indifferent. There is like something about that time that is important, right? It's like formative years. It's something that you reflect on in some way or another.
Hmm.
And, you know, maybe you're not like Romy who feels the need to like impress these people, but it's like there's something, right, that in high school that you remember that like you hang on to that like shaped you in some way, right? I think that that is a piece of it too that feels like very kind of relatable and like universal.
I agree. I think that that's a time period when you sort of figure out how to interact with other people, and not only like guys with being friends with each other, but also how to interact with other girls. Then you're
Mm-hmm.
coming into the dating thing, and then how
Yeah.
to talk to someone, or how to approach someone or carry on a conversation without
Mm-hmm.
either making a fool of yourself or
Yeah. I feel like that's the time too, and a lot of people had like their first big like crush or like boyfriend
sure.
girlfriend or like you're going to prom, right? Like all of these things that are sort of like things you pass as like you get older.
Your
That
milestones. And
yeah. And I think this movie shows too that sometimes we like make them very big in our heads and then you go back and you're like, ew.
there's a moment at the reunion when someone has a realization that maybe it wasn't such a great thing after all. So
Yeah. Yeah,
um
I think definitely I maybe other young women relate to this, but like there are people that I was like boys in high school that I was like, "Oh my God, he's so cute." And then now I'm like, "What was I thinking?" I was like all upset over that person. Oh,
Different time, different age.
I
So
know. My brain was not fully developed yet.
exactly. So I think we all
Um,
should get a pass for
yeah.
whatever decisions we made during that time.
Yes, there's a lot of hormones and not a lot of like brain happening at
Mhm.
the time, so
Right.
it makes sense. It makes sense. We're all we're all just trying to figure it out, but
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah.
uh,
So,
yeah, recap and then bring the opening of our film this week.
yes, as I mentioned, iconic soundtrack. So, it opens with I'm Just a Girl by No Doubt, which I think is like as far as like 90s girl songs ranks near the top.
Okay.
still hits for me, but I think like very big at the time, especially. We first meet Romy and Michelle there watching Pretty Woman. They're at the big mistake, huge scene, which they like to watch and make fun of, which is great.
By the way, that's on my list.
Yeah, I think it might be on my list too. It's also an iconic film. I don't watch it to make fun of it, but they watch it to make fun of it. They're like, they're talking about Julia Roberts being a prostitute, and they're like, all those shop girls in Beverly Hills are probably bigger whores than she is. That's another piece of it. The voice, specifically that Mira Sorvino talks in as
Hmm.
Romy, is this like very exaggerated, like valley California thing. It reminds me of the SNL sketch The Californians, which came later, but maybe they were inspired by her. But it's such an absurd accent, so it makes everything she says like a little bit funnier.
And her voice is kind of deep,
Yeah.
for yeah, it's almost like she's trying to get way down there. I don't know what I can't think of what she sounds like in real life.
Yeah. I feel like I remember when I watched her on Jeopardy, I was like, oh, this is weird. She's a normal voice now. But yeah, it's like she's talking, it's like she's like a surfer dude mixed with a valley girl almost. Like,
Great
bro,
analogy.
tubular. Like that's what she sounds like, but also like valley girl. Lisa Kudrow kind of just sounds like herself, but she's talking like very high up. And she just does a
Mhm.
lot of like, okay, okay, ah, the noises.
And I enjoyed her facial expressions
Yes, she's
throughout.
I love the part shortly after this when they're still watching Pretty Woman, but she like starts to get emotional. She's like, I just get really happy when they finally let her shop. And then they're getting ready to go out. They have a ton of clothes and they're like, I have nothing to wear, which, like, girl things, relatable. There's another funny line when Romy says, I started a new diet. She's only eating like gummy bears and candy corn. And Michelle's like, God, I wish I had your discipline.
I, I wrote that down, that what discipline it must take to just eat gummy bears and candy corn.
Yeah. We also hear too that Michelle makes a lot of their clothes, which is very cool.
Hmm.
A very cool thing. I would love to be able to say that. I have made like two things that I own and wear, but it'd be cool to have made a lot of my clothes.
So I'm going to speak in your defense now. For those of you who know, Lindsay and I, every year for Halloween for several years, we've made ourselves up or whatever. Lindsay mostly does all of her own modifications to her outfits and so on and so forth, and she does a great job. So I think you sell yourself a little short on
That's
your.
true. Well, those I finagle things together for,
But
I do, that's like, I'm not like sewing a garment from scratch for
I
those.
understand, but I
I'm
think you are
like,
very creative.
I'm doing some arts and crafts to put some things together for
Well,
sure. I will take that. I love that about Halloween. I like the creative aspect and also being cheap. That's another aspect of my personality. But like head to toe, like sewing the garment, I own
yeah.
three things that I have sewn fully. I
Okay.
do wear them. They're
Well,
nice. I wish if I had more time, I would sew a lot more of my own clothes. But unfortunately, I have to go to work.
mm,
But yeah, so that's another cool thing about Michelle. Even though she comes off as like kind of ditzy, she's like very obviously very talented.
mhm.
Oh, I love too when they get dressed and they're like, "Oh my God, we look so cute." It's not even like conceited to say this because it's just the truth. We're just so cute, which
I
I
do
love
like the
too.
way they interact with each other, and it's very open and I feel honest. There is that connection you feel
Hmm.
between the two of them. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I just think like to me that again just feels just like me and my friends don't exactly talk like them, but like, yeah, that's just like how it is. Like we're like, oh my God, we look so cute, right? Like, yeah, we
yeah,
do.
of
This
course
is
we do.
great. So they go out, and what's very fun is in a throwback to the last movie we talked about, the first song you hear at the club is a Stayin' Alive like remix on the
Hmm.
dance floor. So it's like, oh my God, it's like we're walking into Saturday Night Fever all over. They're going to a disco.
And I thought they made, like, when they walked in, they looked different from everybody else. That
Hmm.
they made a striking impression, and
Yeah.
and why? I guess there were a couple of people that, went up to him and tried to introduce themselves.
Yeah, yeah. They're definitely in like their outfits are sort of bright and they do a lot of like a nice like bright short dress with like big clunky shoes, which I think is a very fun look that I would wear for sure. And then I love like their accessories. Like I don't know if this is the scene, but there's a scene where Lisa Kudrow's wearing like red and she's got these like cherry earrings and then
Hmm.
their hair is like kind of big and like teased at the root. Like Romy especially
Hmm.
teased at the root in the front. It's like up and then falling down.
And then I said she had like genie hair, like she had the like
Yeah.
the big whippy ponytail thing where,
Yes. 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 She's
which
got
was
the like Madonna blonde ambition ponytail, which is like the
exactly.
throwback when they go to prom. But yeah, they're in their looks. They're struggling to find guys, and they're both like talking about trying out being lesbians. Like Michelle's like, should we try to see if we want to? And Romy's like, no, ew. Then she's like, you know what? If we're not married when we're 30, like ask me again.
The pact, it's like, oh well, if we don't find anybody by the time we're 30 years old,
Yeah,
then
it's
yeah,
us too.
we'll
They
see.
they have their own like choreo because there's no one to dance with. So like we're gonna dance with each other and they have like a full routine, which is very fun. And then they kind of cut to like real life, daily life. Romy is at her job at like a Jaguar service center dealership type place. She's just at the front desk calling for people. Well, she's calling for Ramon to like bring the car
Hmm.
around and he's not coming. He's hitting on her hard.
I love her, like, just she doesn't care what she says over the intercom or the loudspeaker or anything. And there's all these obviously wealthy people waiting on their
Hmm.
vehicles, and it's like she's just swearing like a sailor, or
Yes.
Ramon, quit jerking off and bring the car around. So
Yes. Ramon, quit jerking off and bring the car around. Yeah, and she's got like a very long line, so they're not working efficiently.
exactly.
Then who should show up in line but Heather Mooney, who's Janine Garofalo. So Romy recognizes her from high school. Heather Mooney eventually recognizes her. Heather is rich now, as you can tell, because she's at the Jaguar place. Because she invented like there's some kind of cigarettes. She invented the quick burning paper on these lady cigarettes.
A little bit later on, I was going to say she said that with memory when she was between classes, and she said there's got to be a way to smoke a whole cigarette in between classes, and
Yes,
there's the idea that she came up with, that there's build a better mousetrap. So
yes, yes. And this is our sort of like inciting incident. She's like, "Are you going to the reunion?" And Romy's like, "What are you talking about?" "Oh, well, our high school is having a 10-year reunion." And Romy's like, "Oh my God." Heather says she's not going to go because we learn she had a thing for Sandy Frink, who's Alan Cumming, but Sandy Frink had a thing for Michelle. And so she's like, "Oh, are Sandy and Michelle married?" And Romy's like, "Ew, no." Like, he was such a dork. Gross. And she's like, "Oh, you had a thing for him, didn't you?" She's like, "No, I was very much in love. There is a big difference."
and announced it to everybody in line. That's what I
Yes.
like. Turned around and said, "Oh no, no, it wasn't a thing.
I was
I was in
very
love."
much in love. There is a difference. She's so serious, which I think is also so funny. That's like so high school, right? Like all the feelings that you have in high school are like magnified times 1,000. Like everything that felt so dramatic to me in high school, now I'm like, oh my God, so silly.
And was it just me, or was Janine trying to look like either a vampire with the black eye makeup, the eyeliner, and the black clothes and everything? Plus, she
Mm.
in every scene in the movie, I think she has a cigarette.
Yes, she is smoking like a chimney. She's giving
Yep.
hardcore like goth. She did not buy into like the new the Moname feminine style of the 90s. She's like grunge. Yes, that. Very much. But yeah, for Heather Mooney, like she says her teen years were hell. She's not going back to
Hmm.
high school, which is like, okay, I think that's the case for some people. That's great. Of course, Romy, but then Romy calls Michelle. The next person comes up to like get their car, and Romy gives her the hold on a minute finger and calls Michelle from the desk phone to be like, Michelle, you'll never guess who I saw. Heather Mooney. Did you know we're having a 10-year high school reunion? It's hilarious because the customers are so annoyed. And she's just like, anyways, Michelle.
just carrying on a conversation like the other people don't even exist. I love that. I wrote down worst cashier ever.
Yes, she was. It's a wonder, like Michelle didn't have a job, but it's a wonder that Romy still did. Maybe Ramon like sexually harassed too many people. So maybe they're like, okay, she's not complaining. She can stick around or something. But yeah, she was not very good at that
No.
job to have been sticking around. But then Romy and Michelle are reminiscing about high school. So they're looking at their yearbook, as you do. They got a picture together in the yearbook somehow. This part also, it's like funny. It's not funny, but it's like funny because it's real. But they're like talking about the guy between them who complained
Oh.
about them like wanting a picture together, and they're like,
Hmm.
ha ha ha, that was so annoying. Did he die? Which I
Yeah.
think is so true because there's always just people that like randomly die from your high school. They'll just
Oh.
be like, oh man, remember that one time I saw that guy get in a fight with that guy and it was a really bad fight? They were just rolling around on the floor. Yeah, and then after high school, he died.
Hmm. That's good. Yeah. We had a one of our classmates died right before graduation
Ooh,
in a motorcycle accident. So
ooh.
it was very sad. So, but it's like, years later, somebody would say, "Oh, you remember, so and so? Yeah, I remember when he died." It's
I
like,
know. I think they're always all of those things of like, yeah, and then they died.
yeah.
That part really rang true for me. So then they're talking about kind of just who was who in high school, right? There was like an A group, but then who was the B group? Like, were we the B group? We were like the C group? Maybe we were the
And
D group. No, then they're talking about like, these other people, like Sandy Frank was like a nerd who was into Michelle. And then Heather Mooney was like this like gothy girl into Sandy Frank. And then there's Toby Cameron Manheim, who's like on like yearbook or whatever, like very enthusiastic, kind of rah rah. And every time Heather Mooney sees her, she tells her to fuck off, just no matter what the context. She's like, ah, hey, Toby, guess what? Fuck off.
Tubby would just go, "Oh, okay, thanks."
So they're reminiscing on themselves.
Were girls that mean in high school?
Not at my school. I was gonna say, because I think that like movies like this and like Mean Girls do create a sort of like very clear like hierarchy. And I don't think it was like that.
Okay.
And maybe it was just like where I sat in like, but I don't think so. I think like when I went to high school, or at least where I went to high school, sometimes people were mean to each other, but it was like on a personal basis. You know what I mean? Like if somebody had a problem with you,
Oh,
a personal problem with you.
but not in general. Like, oh,
Right. It wasn't just like popular girls being mean to like other
oh, okay.
girls.
I've made a thing I wanted to ask you that when you were in high school, did you notice that, or was that a real thing, or is this just
Yeah.
something you think the movies are sort of play up?
I think it's something the movies play up. At least for me, it felt like people like existed in there weren't these like very clearly like separate groups, I guess. At
Mm-hmm.
least for us, like everybody was like in different like crowds of people, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
was like very nerdy, right? Like straight A's, honors classes, but I also played sports and I knew people that I grew up playing sports with because I like,
Mm-hmm.
I went K through 12 with like the same people.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, except for I went to school in a military base, so like, people were always moving in and out, but like, there was a core group of people that was there
Mm-hmm.
my
The whole
entire childhood,
time.
right? So it's like there's people I know from my neighborhood, right? Like I was friends with people in band. I did drama club for a bit. I did student government, I did national honor. So it's like there's all these like overlapping groups of people that like
Mm-hmm.
I knew. And like all my friends were like that too, right? Like my friend Lauren ran track. So she was friends with all the black kids on the track team. And like, but also that her boyfriend was like this like white grungy boy. So like she was like friends with all of his friends. And like, it was just like this a lot of overlap. And then like whoever you were in classes with.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was just there's a lot more overlap than is
The,
in these movies. Again, at least like for me and like my group of people that I
okay.
hung out with. So it never like yeah, it was like nerdy. And occasionally people like had a thing to say about my hair or about like me being nerdy. In high school it
Oh,
wasn't not really.
okay.
I
Just
would say I think middle school is worse than high school. At least in my experience estimation. I think in high school people like have their own stuff.
Yeah.
So it was like, who has time to like just devote time? And there are people that would probably disagree. There was a girl that I went to school with who said that there was a bullying problem at our school, but also she was like nerdy in a different way than I was. Like the
Mhm.
kids were like into anime, kind of hung out together.
Mhm.
Also, she was like very unpleasant. So
Oh,
it's like
well,
I think some of it is like, people just like don't get along.
yeah.
But, that kind of stuff that's in this movie, this sort of like A group B, like that to me, like didn't, it just didn't like,
Didn't exist.
didn't exist. Yeah. It just didn't feel real. Cause like the people I think of as like the most like popular, like cool people, like they're people that I was cool with. And people who
Okay.
are like much nerdier and weirder are also people that I was cool with. So it's like, I don't know. It didn't feel like there was this clearly defined like classes in high school in that way. So,
Because it's sort of, I even wrote down, it sort of reminded me, not that I'd seen Mean Girls, but the sort of that
but
same.
we'll get there.
Okay, well, that, so, but just, about that sort of thing where, and it seems to happen, well, I guess with the guys it does too, like the athletes, the jocks versus the
Hmm.
nerds or whatever, but it just seems to be more prevalent, and I think about the women,
Hmm.
about how they treat each other and so on, that, oh, you're not with the in group or the A crowd or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it. So,
Yeah. I think it's definitely portrayed more like media wise like that. But yeah, it just didn't ever feel like
okay,
that was
just
my
curious.
experience. There were girls that I thought were really mean when I was like in seventh grade, like when I was
Oh,
younger. But I think in high school it was just like, oh yeah, there's too much else going on.
mm-hmm.
We all got our
Okay.
things. We all had our own personal dramas to worry about. But yeah, I don't remember really ever having like a feeling like that. But to your point, so as Romy and Michelle are flashing back
Sorry.
still on
Yeah.
their lives, Michelle was in a back brace in high school. She had scoliosis. And it's like also they bring the like sound effects of it.
I
So
wrote
like
that down. I love that it's squeaked.
I'm like, get this girl some WD-40.
For our listeners, by the way, who maybe are thinking that why are they laughing about a girl who has scoliosis? You have to watch the movie to see how it's portrayed.
Yeah.
It is
It's
humorous.
the sound effects every time she turns in the back brace, which is not how, first of all, I don't think people now have like the big metal ones, but she has this metal back brace that like goes like every time she's like adjusting. They also say Romy is fat, and I was like, no, she wasn't.
I know. It's
She
like,
looks the
what?
same.
Yeah, you were the chubby girl, and I thought, what? What are they
Yeah, every
talking
time they
about?
said that, I was like, on what planet is she chubby?
I don't know.
What are the body standards like in Arizona, in Tucson, Arizona?
In light of what the A group looked like, but they all looked sort of like they were undernourished anyway. I'm
Yeah.
just, they were all very thin, but of course they were the cheerleaders and the
Yeah.
whatever. So, but yeah,
Yes.
I wrote that I liked that her brace squeaked when
Yeah.
she moved around, and
Hmm.
and she didn't care. It was like it was fun.
Hmm. Yeah. They do describe themselves also as cutting edge. They were very
Mm,
ahead of the curve on fashion, even though
mhm.
the A group made fun of their clothes. But Romy had a crush on a boy named Billy Christensen, who was like very like quarterback of the football team kind of vibe. But he was with this girl, Christy Masters, from the A group, which is like these four girls that are like super popular, super cute, which is like, it's the plastics from Mean Girls. It's like the Ashleys from Recess. Like I feel like every like depiction of like teenagers of this, the Heathers from Heathers, like it's like
Heather's,
that
yeah.
that group, the popular group. And in one of these flashbacks, Christy comes and she sticks magnets to Michelle's back again because she has this metal back brace. And then she just also just takes Romy's hamburger, which was like a sociopathic move. Like Romy's eating her hamburger and she just goes, "Oh, are you done with that? Can I have it?" And she just takes a big bite of her hamburger. I was like, see, that if this was my high school, that would have been a fight.
I was just going to ask you now. Well, but Romy and Michelle weren't like that though.
No.
They were
I
sort of
mean,
like
that high school didn't look like there was a lot of fights. At my high school,
there would have been a fight.
it would have been a fight. At the very least, a verbal altercation. It would have been like, bitch, why are you eating my hamburger? I paid $1.70 for that. Did you know how long I waited in that line for that hamburger? The lunch
So
lines were so long.
would you have thrown down over that?
I would not have let her pick up my hamburger. I would have
Okay.
smacked her hand before it
Okay.
got to my
Just
hamburger.
okay.
If she said, "Can I have that?" I would have moved it away and been like, "No,
Okay.
absolutely not." Also, I will say, like, I think this also goes back to like the everything is dramatic in high school because like that was mean to stick magnets on her. It also is not like the worst thing in the world.
Right.
The way they were like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh no, no, oh
But
my god."
that's I couldn't figure out like what the big deal was. Like I thought it
Yeah,
was kind of funny.
yeah. I think it was just like being overly dramatic
Yeah.
in and like being self-conscious about the brace and like drawing attention to the brace. But
Hmm.
Sandy comes up to her and Michelle's trying to not talk to him and he's like, "Oh, I just wanted to let you know you have like magnets stuck on your back." And they're like, "Oh my god, oh god, oh god." As if she like, I don't know, put bugs on her, like the way that they're reacting. But then Romy's like, "Laugh. Like just start laughing. Like
Hmm.
pretend I said something funny and you're laughing." So they start laughing, which is great because like again, as Romy says, like the like panicked, upset, sad reaction is what the A group wants, like by
Hmm.
bullying you, right? So
Yeah.
just like don't give them the satisfaction. Just make a joke of it. It's silly. Just laugh and then like we'll move on. And then they walk away. And then we see like their prom. They both went essentially dressed as Madonna. Michelle's got like the sort of short wavy hair and Romy has, as we said, she's got the long ponytail. She's blonde ambition.
Uh-huh.
And they're, just dancing and having fun. I love Michelle's like, okay.
By the way,
Um,
if you all see the movie, you'll realize how spot on Lindsay's impression of Michelle is. So,
thanks.
and she
Okay.
does a good Romy voice too. So,
I do my best. I've only watched this movie 1,000 times. I actually a couple years ago when it was like the 25th anniversary, I put it on. I tried to get my cats to sit with me to watch it, but they were not interested in their namesakes.
what?
These ungrateful children. They don't want to learn where they came from,
Mm,
but
mm,
I did my best. So at the prom, first of all, Billy Christensen seems like a doofus.
hmm. Not a
He's not
lot
that
there.
cute. Like he's just like goofing off with his friends, which again, it's like he's a high school boy, which is like that's just how they are. But it's just like, him and Christy get prom king and queen, and then Romy's like, you know what? It's like the last night of high school. I'm gonna like ask him to dance. And Michelle's like, yeah, no one like would say no to each other tonight. So as Romy goes, then Sandy comes up to ask Michelle to dance, and she goes, oh, no.
And poor Sandy. Don't you just feel bad for him because you knew people like that, or I did. In my we there was a
Mhm.
guy in my high school who really liked a girl, and she wouldn't have anything in the world to do with him. So
Yeah.
we all felt bad for him, because he
Yeah.
was a good guy. I mean, he was,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
no, for sure. Sandy seemed like such a nice guy.
yeah.
But then of course, then Heather asks Sandy to dance, and he's like, "Oh no." And then Toby comes up to them and talk about like state capitals. And Heather's like, "Fuck off, Toby." And then she goes out to smoke. As you mentioned before, she tried to go smoke between classes. She always sees this cowboy in all black with the black hat. This time it's funny. She's like, go fuck a sheep or your sister or yourself. So Romy asks Billy to dance. He's like, oh yeah, just like give me a minute. And then he leaves with Christy on his motorcycle and Romy is just left there.
Yeah.
Um, and Christy, they lay it on thick because Christy
Mm,
comes up and she's like, Billy said that he's breaking up with me for you. Oh my God. And
mm,
Romy's like, oh wow. And then they both leave. So they just to sort of
yeah.
twist the knife a little bit. At the end, it's just, a few couples and her and Michelle, but they dance to time after time. Michelle's
Hmm.
like, I'll dance with you. And then they dance together to time after time because if nothing else, your friends are always there. Back to the present. They're like, oh my God, but like, we're in LA and they're in Tucson. So like, who's winning at life? It's us.
Right.
And they're so excited. They're filling out this like information questionnaire to send in. First of all, it's silly because it's like living with someone and they're like, should I say yes? Should I put you? And it's obviously like living with someone is in like a romantic partner because it's like married, divorced,
Right.
engaged, living with
Living with
someone. And
someone.
they're like, oh, should I put you? Okay. But then they get to like their jobs, and Michelle doesn't have a job, and her last job was like working like at the cash register at like a clothing store. But Romy tells her to put like fashion consultant or something.
Freelance fashion
Freelance
consultant.
fashion
Yeah,
consultant.
which I thought was, yeah, that
Um,
was very creative.
yeah.
So,
Romy has the ideas. But yeah, so they start to realize like Romy starts to feel like, oh, this is like this information we're writing down make us seems like losers, right? And
mhm,
like if we're gonna go back there, we need to like impress them and show them we're not the same people we were in high school. Like we have glowed up. That's what we would say
mhm.
these days.
Glowed up.
You don't just grow up, you glow up, right? If you have
Oh,
grown and
oh,
improved,
gotcha. Oh, okay. That's a new one
right?
on me.
Yes, the glow up. So they're like, okay, the reunion's only a couple weeks away. So like, Michelle, you're gonna get a job. Romy's gonna find them boyfriends. And then Michelle's like, but if it was that easy to like find a new job and boyfriends, wouldn't we have them already? But Romy's like,
Which,
but we haven't had like motivation like this before. Like now we
but
have a reason.
it did make sense though, didn't you think?
It
It was,
d-
it was
yes.
like, yeah,
Michelle is like the quote unquote dumb one, but like she
mhm,
makes some points, including that
exactly.
one.
And then Romy comes up with the idea they need to lose weight.
Yes, which of course, for whatever reason. So they go work out in these like ridiculous outfits, but I also like wish that they existed. They're in these sort of like I don't know. They look like they could be like female wrestlers. Like they're like these sort of like lycra two-piece outfits, like crop top and a little skirt. And they're doing spin class in them, which feels very impractical, but I'm not mad about it. And they also call the spin class lady a pervert. Because when you're like going up and down on the seat, they're like, what does this remind you of? Ew, this lady is such a pervert.
I thought the outfits sort of looked like the old Star Trek series, like some of
Mm.
the stuff that they wore back then in the 60s a little bit,
Yeah.
because if you, I don't know if you remember the women's outfits that they were very short, the
Hmm.
skirts, and because they didn't wear pants,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was, I always thought that was kind of odd,
They didn't
for,
feel practical
no, not at all.
for
So
anything, especially spin, but
but they did look good.
they did. So they start on their missions. Michelle tries to get a job at Versace. First of all, she's wearing a great like red suit, which I love. She
You
tries
look
to get a
fabulous.
she looks great. She tried to get a job at Versace, but she fully insulted a customer in front of her face. So it did not work out. It started like it was going good because she was like, "Oh my God, that blouse looks so good on you."
Mhm.
And then she's like, "See, I can also tell people things even if they're not true," in front of the woman that she just complimented. So that doesn't go well. She tries to get a job at like a sort of lower end store, but then they're like, maybe go to our discount outlet. And it's just like
Oh
awful and
my
gross. So she's
God.
like, no. Meanwhile, Romy's at the club, and this is a line I gotta use sometime. A guy comes up and she's like, wow, nice suit. Is that Armani? And he's like, yeah. She asks what he does, and he says he's a suit salesman, which to her is like, absolutely not. So she goes, oh, I cut my foot earlier and my shoe is filling up with blood. I have to go. And she limps away. Like this is if I am out and someone tries to hit on me and I'm not into it, that's my line. That's it. I gotta use that. Because what do you say?
Uh, Sorry, yeah.
Right.
Gee, hope you feel better.
I think it's good if you want someone to leave you alone that your line is a little bit off-putting, and that one definitely is. So that was
I did write that down. That was funny about her blowing the suit guy off.
yes, yes. She was
Um,
like she spotted a guy in a designer suit and was like, "Ooh, nice." And then as soon
mhm.
as he said he's only in a designer suit because he sells
So-
them, she's like, "Oh no, no, thank you." She even tries to go on like Singled Out, the MTV show at the time. That's and then they were like, "Oh, our cutoff's at 25. Maybe try VH1."
yeah, that was funny.
Brutal. Um, but yeah, so Romy's feeling very discouraged. Michelle, I think, just doesn't have it in her to feel discouraged. Like it doesn't occur to her to feel discouraged. Romy's very discouraged. She's like, I've been working my butt off and I gained a pound. Oh, this is when they're on the treadmills in the
Mhm.
in the
in the
heels,
the
in the
the,
platforms.
the big platform shoes.
They're just like clunk, 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 like walking very slowly. I'm like, you know what? That'd probably be a good calf workout. But Romy weighs herself and she's like, I gained a pound. And Michelle's like, did you deduct 16 pounds for your shoes?
So I have two questions, and maybe
Hmm.
so at this point I was going to ask you.
Hmm.
One, how are they affording to go to a gym? And two, who is paying Michelle's bills? I mean, does Romy make that much money at the? I know it's a movie, but I'm
Yeah,
just
that's a good question. I mean, it does look like they're living in like a studio.
yeah. I mean, they're not living in a lap of luxury, but they
No,
got to
but
eat,
yeah.
and and
Well, first of all, it doesn't seem like they eat that much. So that probably
well,
helps. But yeah,
except for candy corn and gummy
yeah,
bears.
maybe Michelle like occasionally sells a garment or something to make a little cash. That's what I have to assume. But yeah, it doesn't make sense, especially in LA. They're not living
Yeah,
in Mayberry. Um,
right. And
and obviously 1997 LA is not today, but
it was still pretty pricey back then. I
still.
mean,
And they have
because
like beach, they live like they're beachfront.
I know that's what I was. Don't they live close to the water or
Yeah, because like
right
that
on?
first shot, it's like we
Mm-hmm.
zoom in like from the beach into their place. So it's like,
Now, granted, it doesn't look like a great neighborhood
yeah.
where they where they leave from to go to the
Mhm.
reunion. So
Yeah. But still, like, no, I
yeah.
agree. I
So
think that's
just that's the old man in me. That's the
yes,
that
we're suspending it's they afford that the same way that Carrie Bradshaw afforded that nice apartment, right in like one article every 3 months.
gotcha. Okay. Okay. I'm just okay. I'm there. I'm with you.
Yes. But yeah, so Romy is very discouraged. She's like, we're not gonna be able to do it. We should just not go. And once again, Michelle is like, but like, I thought you said we could.
Yeah.
But like you said, we could do it. So like we can do it, right? Which I think is, sometimes the level of like kind of blind optimism that we need in the world, right? Like, well, we said we could do it, right? So like we can do it.
We can do it. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's okay that if the the water's rising above our ankles and stuff, we can still do this. We can take care of this.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think sometimes again, like I said, like that sort of ignorance is bliss kind of thing. Like, I don't know. You don't like think about all the stuff that could go wrong and then just maybe it doesn't.
hmm
And then the big idea comes, right? They're at home, they're looking through Vogue and they see businesswomen. And Romy says, aha, a light bulb.
hmm
We don't have to be businesswomen. We're just going to tell people. We don't have to be successful. We're just going to tell people. How will they know? We live here, they live there. No one's going to know. So they decide they're going to be businesswomen. Michelle's going to make the clothes. Romy is like, I'll get a car because they're like, we can't show up in our little hoopty car if we're saying we're successful businesswomen.
I think it's a Nova. They said the Chevy Nova.
Yeah,
So you probably don't remember the Chevy
I
Novas.
don't.
Yeah, yeah, it wouldn't go over well.
No, no. People would not believe that
Successful
they're
or
businesswomen.
hmm
So Romy's going to take care of the car. Ramon from the Jaguar dealership, who again is very into her, has a fancy car that he's been fixing up that she's aware of. So she goes into the garage, goes into the little service office in her like tight dress with her little scarf trailing behind her, and is like, I want to borrow that car. What can we do? And then he's like, well, I'm not having sex with you for a car, but she will let people think that they did. So they shut the blinds and the door of the thing. And she's like vocalizing as if but in like the worst acting ever. Like, oh, Ramon, oh, Ramon. And he's like giving her dialogue that is ridiculous. I have to
That was
find
a
it.
very funny
You are
bit.
Columbus and I am America. Discover me. Oh my God. But the other guys are outside the
Oh my
office.
God, they're
Ear
like,
press. They're buying it.
oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah. Ramon's the man.
Yeah, ear press to the glass. But
Uh
then she's like, okay, we're done. Goodbye. Get off me.
huh.
And he's like, what? And she's like, well, you wanted to make it believable. So she struts out. They get to borrow the car. They're getting ready. This part is funny too, when she's like, Michelle's like, oh, how'd you get the card? She's like, oh, I gave everybody at work hand jobs. And Michelle's like, okay. And then Romy's like, wait, you really thought that I did that? And Michelle's like, oh, okay, whatever. But they're ready. Michelle has made a mixtape of songs from high school, and they get in the car. Watch out, Tucson. Here we come. Backfire. Starts again. Watch out, Tucson. Here we come. Backfire. Third time's the charm. They finally get going. That's a thing that me and my friends always say, though, like in the car.
Do you really?
Watch out, Tucson. Here we come.
There you go.
If we're gonna drive somewhere, we say that a lot on like, if you have a little schlep in the car
Okay.
together, that's what we're gonna always. Tucson, here we come. I also love too that they're playing these like, oh, the like our favorite songs from high school, and they do not know the words at all. They're
Oh,
playing
yeah.
Footloose, and they don't know any of the words to Footloose. They're just like, oh, I don't know this part.
Mm-hmm. They sing along to the chorus.
Yeah,
Now
and then like,
gotta
oh,
cut loose, foot loose.
they're like, you're moving so far, and they're just like making up words for the rest of it. They're on the road. I love the part where Michelle's making faces at the child.
Oh my God.
And then like the parents see her and she's like, oh no, I'm trying to scare your little boy. And they're like, what the fuck? They stop at like a truck stop and change into their businesswoman finery, which again, if Michelle made these, the tailoring, like
Oh,
if in the universe we
spot
believe that
on.
Michelle, like she should be a designer.
Mm-hmm.
Because the tailoring on these suits, impeccable. They have their little French twists, right? Their
Oh,
hair's
yeah.
up in the updos. They're ready. And then this part makes me like cringe. The secondhand embarrassment I feel at this moment when Romy goes up to like the waitress at this truck stop diner and is like, do you have a businesswoman special? And the lady's like, what? No. It's so embarrassing. And then it gets worse. Then she says, like, what business are you in?
Oh.
And they're like, the plan did not extend that far.
I even wrote down they didn't think that one through very well, did they?
So then in the car, first of all, lovely scarves, because obviously they're in a convertible. So they have beautiful scarves to protect their updos, just like the ladies in Tu Wong Fu.
I thought of the same thing because they're in convertible.
Gotta protect the do. Gotta protect the do. I also love Lisa Kudrow's playing with a fortune teller or we used to call it a cootie catcher when I was a kid, but the one that you like.
I know what you're talking about. I forget what we called it. It wasn't that though. So it was
But it's
else.
in like the 4 and you like move it with your fingers and count and stuff.
Yeah.
And she's like, who will I have sex with? Oh, Casey Deegan, who we earlier found out is gay. She had a crush on the guy on like the lead in the drama club. And like, they were like, why didn't he like us? And it's like cut to a picture of him like staring at the other dude in the drama
flashback.
Club. It is. It's just like a great like visual joke.
Well, there was some music though. There was what was the song they were playing? I thought I meant to write it down, but it was some
it was a sort of like ballady.
Yeah, like
thing.
And they were gazing into each other's eyes and she was in between them. So it was funny though. I remember
yeah, I can't find it, but it was very funny.
It was yeah. I thought the flashbacks were interspersed very well and they really that from what they remembered and then like what happened. So
yeah. I will also say they made them look like different enough that it was like not like jarring. Sometimes like when they do like on Friends when they would do flashbacks, it was just like silly because they would just be like in a wig. But I will say the flashbacks here were like a little bit more seamless to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then Romy comes up again, Romy with the ideas. She's like, oh, we're gonna say what's like a thing that people use, but they don't like know about its origin. So she's like, okay, Post-its. Everybody knows what a Post-it is, but no one knows who invented Post-its. So we're going to say that we invented Post-its. But then as she's spinning the yarn, she's coming up with the idea. It sounds like she came up with it. She's like, oh, we were like doing something. And I was like, wouldn't it be great if this paper had a stick-em on the back? And Michelle's like, well, it sounds like it was your idea. And she's like, well, we can say you're like the designer. You had the idea to make them yellow. And like your uncle had the glue factory or whatever. And she's like, okay, but it makes it sound like I didn't do anything. And because Romy says she's more believable as a designer than an inventor, which like she's calling her dumb.
Yeah.
And Michelle's obviously pissed off. So they pull over and they have a fight. This is an iconic fight about who's cuter. Michele says that she lets Romy have all the ideas because she's cuter. I'm the Mary and you're the Rhoda.
I love that they do that.
Yes. And then Romy is like, but you're the Jewish one. And Michelle's like, I mean, in terms of cuteness, I'm the Mary and you're the Rhoda. And so they go back and forth. Romy's like, I carry you. You would be lost without me. I will also pause here to say, again, this movie is important to me. Like on all my social medias, like profiles, all have quotes from this movie. So like on my Instagram, it says I'm the Mary. And my like
Oh,
Twitter profile says, I invented Post-its.
I did not know
Uh,
that.
so yes, these are like interspersed throughout everywhere. But yeah, so this they're like broken up. They have like a little friendship breakup, but they're in the middle of like the desert. So they're like, okay, we'll go to Tucson together and then we're gonna split up. And then next thing you know, yes. So they arrive at the reunion. Michele walks in and she hears Romy walking around telling people, taking full credit, like I invented Post-its. Michelle's only idea was making them yellow. And then she goes up to the A group and they're like asking her about inventing Post-its. And somehow Michele like knows the full recipe for the glue.
Glue.
She knows how to make glue. She's just reciting exactly how you make glue and how they changed it to make it like, lasting or whatever on Post-its.
Less viscous or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, it was impressive.
Yeah. She's
The
like, but she's still doing it like in her Michele tone. Like she's like,
yeah, exactly. And,
yeah.
it turns out we could.
I wondered if we could make it more viscous. And it turns out, yeah, we could. And also this line I love, they're like, wow, you must be like the most successful person in our class. And she's like, uh-huh, and you're not. Bye.
I forgot about
And
that.
meanwhile, like Romy also meets up with Billy Christensen and like they go out to the car and Michelle's gonna try to go tell Romy, like, oh my God, I just like told the A group everything. But Romy's like, can't you see I'm busy? So Michelle's like, and she walks away and she gets hit by a limo in like the most, but she just like keeps rolling
Yeah,
on top
down the
of it.
whole length
She's
of
like,
it, and
like
and
getting hit.
breaks off the TV antenna on the back. So
And then the door opens and it's this guy. And it's like, who is this?
I laugh so hard.
It turns out to be Sandy Frank, but he says he got a new face. And she's like, oh, you picked a good one. But it's like Alan Cumming with these prosthetics, these crazy prosthetics.
And these
He
blue
looks,
eyes.
and the blue eyes.
But
He looks like there's a drag queen named Got Mick. And if you look up Got Mick out of drag, that is what
that's
Alan Cumming looks like
I
with
thought
these
he looked
prosthetics.
like a Ken doll.
Yeah, he looks like fake. He looks like a
Well,
fake
it's
person.
plastic. Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
like plastic. And his hair is like,
Yeah, he looks like a Lego man.
yeah.
It's so jarring, but she loves it. Back at the car, like Christy's like, Billy, will you dance with me for old time's sake? And he's like, no, I'm gonna dance with Romy. Then like Michele is like making out with Sandy Frank. Her like jacket is off. She's just in her bra. And then Toby comes. This is my favorite part. She comes just like floating up to the sunroof. Like she just slides into frame of the sunroof. And she's like, guys, come in. They're about to present the award. And then Michelle's like, what award? But they go and she can't find her top. So she just goes in her bra. Then it turns out the award is most change for the better. And Michele and Romy both win. And they go up. And Michele gets on the mic and says, sorry, I couldn't find my top. And everyone applauds.
Best accepted speech ever, by the way.
Yeah, so great.
Yeah.
If I ever win an Oscar, I'm just gonna be like, sorry, I couldn't find my top.
Well,
So
shucks, I was going to use it, but you go ahead. So
well,
it is your
we'll
movie.
fight over it.
It's your
We'll fight
movie.
over it.
So
Or you can say, sorry, I couldn't find my top, and I'll go, and you're not. Bye. It'll be like when Jennifer Lawrence said, I beat Meryl from First Wives Club.
Yeah.
And some people thought she was just being mean to Meryl Streep. Anyways, Um, so in they win their award and then they leave separately. Somehow the limo and the red car are in the ballroom.
Yeah.
So they Michelle and Sandy get in the limo. Romy and Billy get in the red car and they leave. They go their separate ways. Flash forward 70 years. They're old. Once again, the prosthetics work.
This
Killing it.
it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It really is.
Lisa Kudrow's prosthetics, even like they even did her hands. I was like, who did the makeup for this movie? They should also get some kudos here. She decides, you know what? She's looking at the award and reminiscing on the 10th high school reunion because obviously when you're 98 years old, that's what you're doing is reminiscing on your 10th high school reunion. So she like does a little video call, the version that they had in that they envisioned in the future of in 1997, to call Romy, who's on her deathbed, and they immediately start the "I'm the Mary" argument again. The best part is Romy is like actively dying and musters enough strength to lift her hand to give Michele the finger. I'm the Mary. Oh my god, it's
It was a good sequence. Well, especially when the first video came on and the guy appeared and she said, "Oh, Billy," and oh no, I'm Billy Jr. It
yeah.
was her son.
Billy, is your mommy home?
Yeah, that was great. Tell
No,
your mommy to get on the
but his
phone.
his aging makeup looked good.
It,
The
it
people who do like the like digital de-aging and stuff, they should watch this movie because the looks in this scene are better than a lot of like modern
I
aging makeup
agree.
I see.
And
And it's a 30-second scene.
Alan Cummings makeup will look good as the old
Hmm.
guy, Michelle's old husband. So
Yeah, yeah. No, it was great. So, anyways, then boom, Michelle wakes up. She's actually fallen asleep in the car. That was all a dream, which you can probably tell by the ridiculousness of what happened, including Toby floating. That was my favorite part. It made it is like it. I died at that watching it this time. They're actually at the reunion though. Romy has left Michelle in the car. Michelle's like, "Oh my god, what a bitch!"
I did think that was kind of cold though to say that, like she said, you didn't even wake me up,
Right?
to
She
let
just
me
left her.
know.
Also, she's just like outside in public
Right.
asleep. I wouldn't
Yeah,
even if I didn't like someone, I would just like nudge them at least and be like, "Hey, we're here."
we're here. Yeah. So
But anyways, Romy's inside. She's immediately being asked about Michelle, and she's like, "Oh, I don't know," because
mhm.
they're a pair. People expect them to be together. She spots Billy at the bar. He seems to be looking good. She talks to Lisa Luter, who used to be with the A group but isn't anymore. She works for Vogue now.
Yeah, I was a fashion editor.
Yes. So she's like legit. And you could see also in the flashback, like she actually had some affinity for Romeo and Michelle's fashion,
Hmm.
but the leader of the A group, Christy, kind of like shut her down for
Right.
saying anything complimentary about them, which again I think is like that feels exaggerated to me. Maybe that's how high school is for some people,
It
not
wasn't
for
for you
me.
though.
No.
Okay. All right.
Like I had friends that like disliked other people that like didn't want to hear anything nice about them, but it was because they had like a
Personal
personal
thing.
dislike for them, not just like they are less cool than us, be mean to
Yeah.
them. Well, that's just like not, it doesn't make sense. Anyways, this is the first person Romy gets to try the post-it line out, and she does not buy it. She doesn't say anything, but she's just like, okay.
Mhm.
She does not buy it. Michelle is talking at like what appear to be like foreign exchange students. And she's like, oh my God, you guys are so easy to talk to because they're just like not saying anything. The implication is that they do not understand her.
Right at all. Yeah.
So she's just talking at them and they're just like staring blankly. Then Romy goes up to the A group, who are all like the three remaining members who are all pregnant. So Romy goes up and starts talking to them. They're like, oh, the chubby girl, which again, I'm like, on what planet was she chubby?
You
What
got
is the
me.
standard in Tucson, Arizona? Christy is married to Billy, which is like a dagger to the heart of Romy. And she says she has three kids, and Romy's like, wow, you must really feel tied down. And she's like, no, I feel fulfilled. Which, like, she said it very defensively. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I heard fulfilled, but I was reading tied down. So I don't know about
Right.
you. Yeah.
Methinks the lady doth protest too much.
Agreed.
They also don't believe that Romy invented Post-its. But we learn that Sandy Frink is mega wealthy now because he invented some special rubber for shoes. Then Heather Mooney comes in with just this like the score as Heather is entering. It's like something crazy is happening as she's sort of storming in. Because
Oh
she is
yeah.
just like speed walking.
Oh yeah, a million miles a minute,
And
and
then,
smoking.
yes. But also, the score is that way because she's the only person who can ruin their plan. Because
Right.
she knows that Romy works at the front desk at the Jaguar place. She knows that she's not a rich businesswoman. So that's why we get the like hijinks music as she's coming in. But we get, for good measure, Toby's working the name tag table, and she
Love
tries to
that.
stop her to get her name tag, and she hits her with a fuck off as soon as she goes by. And then Toby's like, Heather?
Yeah.
That's how she recognized her.
Right.
Um, of course, Heather comes up to Romy and the A group as they're talking about Romy's lie about inventing Post-its, and Heather's like, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
And of course, Heather knows who invented Post-its because she went to business school and they apparently learned about him. And then the A group starts laughing at Romy,
Yeah. That's a tough scene.
just like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
They're like, wow, you made up a story that you invented Post-its? Like, which is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. But then Michele swoops in like a good friend.
Mm.
She goes, at least we're not the ones that got fat. And Christy is like, I'm pregnant, you half-wit. And then she says, well, I hope your babies look like monkeys. But then Michele and Romy make up. They like, I hate when we're mad at each other.
Yeah.
Michele says, Romy, you're just as cute as me. And in some cultures, maybe cuter.
I love the olive branch. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
In
know,
some cultures, maybe cuter.
maybe even cuter. So yeah, in some parts of the world.
And then, they're like, well, at least, only they heard it. It's not a big deal. Of course, then Christy Masters Christensen announces in front of the whole room, who's here doing what. Like Lisa works for Vogue, and Sandy invented shoe rubber, and Heather invented the cigarette paper, and somebody's on the Cowboys. And Romy and Michele claimed they invented Post-its. So then the whole room is laughing at them. Everybody has heard the lie, and it's very embarrassing.
Yeah.
And they like leave, which I would do too if the
Well,
whole room was laughing at me.
Romy, I think, was more upset about, that, and she, I wrote down her reaction. You could tell she was really, really upset, and then Michele sort of like, then braced her up a little bit.
Yeah, so they leave. Romy's crying, like she's very upset. And Romy's like, everybody thinks that we're a joke, just like they did in high school. And this is the part, I think this is the part that where I like feel like I relate to Michele. She's like, it didn't like occur to me that we weren't cool until like you told me that. Like,
Hmm.
I had fun. Like I enjoyed it. So like I thought everything was good until you told me it's not. So she's like, like why don't we just be ourselves and have fun? Like who cares? And then she's like, and can you stop being such a baby?
Again, I love her facial expressions. So yeah, and again, Lindsay's killing it. Just
I
saying.
wish I wish one day we'll
We're
pivot to
gonna we're
video.
gonna do this on video. Exactly. Yeah. So
See
and
the Michele faces, but
yeah.
just watch the movie and you'll see it. But
Yes.
she does these like big eyes, just like, oh my God, kind of faces. Romy's like, Michele, I've never seen you like be bossy like this. I like it. And Michelle's like, me too. They change into their fun outfits to Venus by Bananarama. And these, I think, if you've ever seen like pictures from this movie, you've probably seen these outfits. Romy's in like the short blue dress, Michele is in the short pink dress.
Are these the iconic dresses of the movie, or pretty much like when people?
Yeah, like I think if people are going to dress up as them for Halloween, like this is the outfit
Oh, okay.
that they're wearing. Or it's similar to what they're wearing on like the cover of the DVD or the poster, but just a slightly different color. So for some reason on the poster, Romy is in like red
Mm-hmm.
and Michelle's in like purple, but it's the same dresses.
Oh, okay.
They're
Like the
just a
same
different
cut and
color.
everything.
Yeah, like with the like
Oh, okay.
fuzz and like the stripe and stuff. Like that's the same dresses. They're just, but in the scene, Romy's is blue and Michelle's is pink. So
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know why, but they're in the same shoes too. So maybe it's just like the color or whatever on they just changed the color on the poster or something. But they're
Oh,
like the
I see.
iconic
Yeah,
dresses.
where they have, yeah, they're hugging each
Hugging
other.
with their feet up. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the
Okay.
same. If you look at like the details of the dresses, they're the
Yeah, even yeah,
same.
like the trim at the bottom and
Mm-hmm.
everything. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just
Because
different colors.
Romy's did look very Star Trek. Also, that blue one with the sort of like
Mm.
design that looked very Star Trek
Yeah, it even almost
dress.
had the insignia,
Yeah.
kind of looked like
Yeah.
it a little bit. So,
Yes. So they go in, they're strutting in, they go straight up to the A group who try to make fun of them. And basically, Romy's like, I don't care what you think because you're a bitch.
you
And
have
they're
an
like,
ugly heart. I like that
yes,
line. You have an ugly heart.
yes, exactly. And they keep trying to insult their clothes. But then Lisa Luter, former member of the A group, current fashion editor at Vogue, swoops in to say, actually, like they have like clean lines, playful use of color, whatever. They're actually not bad.
Mhm.
And they're like, huh. And Christy's like, well, we think they're ugly, right? And then the other two girls in the A group clearly don't agree with her. They kind of like them. I love this part too. And like Lisa's like, Christy, let them think for themselves. And she's like, you're just mad because we're happy and we have families and you're a dried up career woman. And she's like, that's right, Christy. Keep telling yourself that. Oh, cold.
Yes.
Got her.
Lisa did look good, by the way. She looked,
She did with
I
the
mean,
like the short
the
haircut and the
white
suit.
suit, yeah,
Yes,
and
and she just
the
looks so like cool and casual with the hands in the pockets,
oh yeah,
just like
yeah.
walking around.
Yep.
Um,
She looked
I
like
don't.
Vogue.
She did. Also, I
Mm,
was like, if I was a Vogue editor, I would not go to my 10-year high school reunion in Tucson, Arizona. But okay,
I don't know. I think maybe, yeah. I wrote down
because it
like I
didn't
think
seem
it.
like she had like like she was friends with those people still.
Yeah,
Like,
but it's everybody's dream to go back to your high school reunion, and you're like, yeah. By the way, I invented, post-its, or
yeah.
I did.
I mean, that is the premise.
I,
That's the
I'm
premise of the
I'm the guy
movie.
that like So at my 55th reunion, my 50th is coming up. At my 55th reunion, after you and I've won some sort of award for our
Hmm.
podcast or whatever, I'm going back and I'm going to
Yeah,
take it with me. So I'm just saying.
yeah. My high school class is not organized enough to have consistent reunions, so
Oh, we have one every 5 years.
we had a 10-year one, but then it was like supposed to be somewhere and I paid to go. And then it got changed because not enough people pay, like, were buying tickets.
Oh,
So then it changed to like a house party. And I was like, well, I'm not going to someone's house
oh,
for a reunion.
yeah.
And I was supposed to be refunded my money, and I was not.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah. But I don't know that we've had one since then because I think it's just
Yeah.
like not.
We've the only one we missed was in 2020 because of COVID.
Hmm.
So our
Yeah.
my 50th is coming up next year.
Because we should be on, like, last year should have been 15, and we
Okay.
didn't have, I don't think we had one now that I'm aware of. But
Okay.
I don't, maybe I'm the Michelle because I'm like, well, the people I went to high school with that I want to talk to, like I talk to on a regular basis, like I would go, but just to be like, oh, like
Hmm.
curious about it. Like
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, maybe I'm the Michelle. I'm not, I have nothing to prove to anyone. Like, anyways, back to the reunion. The A group has been told off. Christy has been told off. And then Heather comes up to Romy and Michelle and she's like, wait, I thought that you guys had it made in high school because you were
Mm.
making my life hell, but they were making your life hell. So maybe in high school, like somebody is making everybody's life hell. And she's like, but I didn't make anybody's life hell. And I love how Michelle's like, I bet you did. You were very unpleasant.
Like that was a compliment. Like,
Yeah.
oh no, I'm sure you did make someone's life hell. Yeah.
You were very unpleasant. I love
Yeah.
the I use unpleasant all the time, so I love the use of that word. But then Toby comes up and she's like, "Hey, Heather, will you sign my yearbook since you didn't get to before? And please don't tell me to fuck off because it hurts my feelings." And then Heather's like, "Wait, I hurt your feelings? Of course I'll sign your yearbook." She's like so elated
Yeah,
to have
exactly.
made someone else's life hell. in high school.
Yeah, go get your yearbook. I'll sign that thing.
It's like a badge of honor.
Yeah. So,
But I think that that's also like real, right? Like everybody has this idea of like, oh, well, like you
mhm.
have it made and like it sucks for me. But also like they feel like it sucks in a different way than it does for you,
Oh yeah.
you
I
know?
what there's a saying that your hell is someone's heaven,
Hmm.
you know. So always
Right.
got so you gotta
And like,
think
when you see people at school, you only see like a very small a snippet of their lives.
exactly. You don't see what it's like for them. You only see them what 10% of their life. So
Yeah. You don't know if they're like whatever grades they get that they're struggling for them, or if like what things are like at home, or like
home,
who
right.
they really like, or who they have crushes on that like doesn't like them or whatever. Like,
Or yeah, or if there's, I don't like girls, I like boys, or vice
and they're
versa.
they like
And
are
there's struggle
struggling
with
with
that,
that.
yeah, or I get abused at home.
Yeah. Or they're being bullied by people that don't even like look your way. So you
Yeah,
don't even think that it's a
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Or someone
And
that like is buddy buddy to you, but they're picking on them,
yeah,
and you don't know it. So yeah.
right. So I thought that that was like a relatable experience. Although like the fact that she was so excited to have been mean to
I
someone.
know her face was lit up. It was the first time you really saw her smile.
Yeah. And then Sandy Frink arrives in a helicopter, which is truly like the flex of all flexes. I think
Oh
we talked
yeah,
about a flex before. That is in one of our previous episodes, we talked about what a flex is. That is a big flex. Is
big time.
arriving to your 10-year high school reunion in a helicopter. I
Oh
also
yeah.
love this part when Michelle's like, "What?" And Romy's like, "He invented a special rubber." And she's like for condoms? He struts in these weird like platform sneakers, which I do not like.
Well, I didn't like him either, but I thought, well, damn, he was ahead of his time, and then you
Yeah.
figured, well, I'm sure that's the rubber
He's
that he
showing off the rubber
designed.
he invented.
Exactly.
I
So,
also
but
love this part too, because again, Heather Mooney is like, oh, I was obsessed with him. Ew.
I mean, Alan Cumming is a good looking guy to me. I mean,
He is. And again, I thought he looked better than he had in high
oh my
school.
God, in the dream. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, and
He,
even like when they do the flashbacks to high school, like he had,
yeah,
matured.
yeah, exactly. So he
But
came into his own,
yeah,
and
but I do think
he
that
dressed nice,
is
and
such a thing though. Like when you're in high school, you like this. I think because you're just like around these people so much,
I guess.
it's
I
like a
don't know.
mere exposure thing. You're like, oh my God, so cute. And then you're like,
Ew.
ew.
Oh, I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's happened to me before.
Okay.
I
All
don't
right.
know. Maybe it's a girl thing.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, it's
Anyways, of course, he blows everybody off. Christy tries to talk to him. He's not trying to talk to anybody. Beelines for Michelle. They're playing that song. They're like, Doctor, Doctor, give me the news. I got a
hmm
bad case of loving you. He's like loaded. He's talking about all his houses and
and Michelle's
his
like sitting there going,
jets and yachts. And he's like, but I still don't have what I need because I don't have you, Michelle. And she's like, okay, you know, she does her thing. He asked her to dance, and she says, only if Romy can dance with us. And then we get again this iconic scene that I think of every single time I hear Time After Time. They do this dance to Time After Time, this weird, like interpretive dance. Michelle, Romy, and Sandy to Time After Time.
somebody needs to do this on DWTS on movie night or whatever. I swear they do.
Sign me up. Um,
Don't you think?
yes,
It,
like they have to.
yeah, it's iconic.
Yes. If you have not seen this movie, first of all, you can just look up the dance on YouTube. You should watch the movie also. It's streaming in multiple places. But look up the dance on YouTube if you've never seen it, because or even if you have seen it and you just want to chuckle, just watch it.
It
Because
is.
it's so silly and
But
fun.
and fun. I was gonna say it's fun
Yes.
to me. It is.
To be clear too, when I say silly is not a derogatory word when I say
Oh
it.
no, no, no! It's meant. Yeah, this is, that's complimentary to this.
Yes.
It's
Silly compliment. I wrote in my notes that I want the occasion to do this one day in my life. Maybe one
Mhm.
day if I like get married, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna bring one of my friends and do this dance with them and my new husband. Only if she can dance with me too.
So I got to tell you, if I'm there,
I mean, you will be. If I ever get
well, I'm
married, you'll be
just
there.
if I'm there and you don't, I'm gonna call you out on it. I'm gonna go, well, no, wait a minute. Before this breaks up, you got to dance to Time After Time
Yes.
with one of your high school girlfriends and your husband.
Yes, exactly.
So without your shoes.
Of course, of course. It wouldn't be an interpretive dance if we had shoes on. Although he can wear weird platform tennis shoes.
Yeah.
Uh, while this is happening, Heather is like, this is stupid. So she walks out, and who is there but the cowboy? She's like, oh God, again. But he talks now and he apologizes. He's like, oh, I had a really bad stutter. I'm sorry, I never knew what to say. And she's like, huh. He's like, do you want to go somewhere and talk? And she's like, you know what? Okay. Romy and Michele are leaving. They're going to leave with Sandy in his helicopter. He's going to get it prepared. He has a house in Malibu, so I assume he's going back in the LA direction, anyways.
And
Um,
I'm also assuming he flies the thing because there is no pilot. He got out by himself, so I'm guessing he
or
also
he just has
flies.
him. He's just like, keep it running, man. He's like,
Well, you didn't see anybody else, and so I'm assuming he's going to
no,
fly the helicopter.
that's
So,
true. Or he's got like an like Argyle and Die Hard. He's
oh
just
yeah,
sitting waiting for the call.
could
Somebody
be,
just leaning
yeah,
against the other side of the helicopter. But he does say he's gonna get it going. So,
yeah.
and then who should emerge puking in the bushes but the heartthrob, bleh, Billy Christensen. And once again, it's a moment of like, this is the person that I liked. Also, he's a total dick.
Well, he was a
He,
total mess too. I
he
mean,
was a mess. He's just like sweaty and like drooly.
he's got a
Obviously, he was
beer
just
gut.
barfing. He's got a beer gut. He calls Romy Chubbo.
Yeah,
And he's like, "Oh, you had like you two were like totally in love with me in high school." I love Michelle's like, no, I was not. It was her. No, that is. I would say the same thing if someone said that to like me and my friends. I'd be like,
would you?
no, it was her.
Yeah, yeah.
Do not. I am not in it. And he talks about like getting a room, and she's like, "Aren't you are like married with children?" And he's like, eh, unhappily, like,
Well, he doesn't even think the kid that she's pregnant with
oh
is
yeah, I don't
his.
think the kid's pregnant with me. He like she had described him as like a contractor or something, or like owning a construction business, and he's like, no, I put up drywall for like
Her dad.
her dad. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like they're not like doing well. Again, this is the like, yes, loser. The who, the her. The image people put forth is not the
Yeah,
reality, I think
exactly.
is the
Yeah.
lesson here.
Uh-huh.
So she's like, you know what? You get that room. You go up there, you take your clothes off, you get all ready, and I'll be there in 5 minutes. And he's like, oh, great. And he goes. And then Romy's like, now he's going to see what it's like to wait and nobody shows up. And I was like, yeah, get him. Get him, Romy. And this part, she's like, I wish that everybody would come out and see us lift off. And then, of course, they all do. As they get in the helicopter and start lifting off, everybody comes out.
Yeah,
They're all like
Heather
waving.
uh, uh, Toby leads them out,
Yeah.
as like the big, sending off
Yeah,
party
let's
or
all say
whatever.
goodbye. It's like the end of Grease, except they're
Yeah,
in an actual flying machine.
right, yeah. And
But then you see Christy is wandering around going, Billy! Her little dress is flying up. Again, I think that pregnant belly is fake. So again, I want to shout out the makeup team in this movie because that was a good looking pregnant belly.
it wasn't
Unless
bad
that
because
unless
I
that
thought the
actor
same thing.
happened to be pregnant at the time, but probably not.
No, I don't think it was either. I think that was
Yeah,
a prosthesis.
it was but it was a good one.
It was,
Truly,
yeah.
whoever did the prosthetics in this movie, why are they not doing the prosthetics for more movies? Like, can Lucasfilm hire them?
I'm just telling you,
Can
somebody
like
needs to.
the Marvel Cinematic Universe hire them?
Well, you got to remember this movie's 27 years old. Are they even still with us?
I mean, that's true, but I do feel like some of the veteran like costume
Yeah,
designers and makeup people like Mona May, the costume designer, is still around.
yeah. So
We got to do some research, but maybe I have to assume maybe this person can't do it anymore because there's no reason why whoever does the makeup for this movie should not be doing it for
Uh,
many more movies because
for
it's very good.
it is. It was extraordinary. I thought it really
Yeah,
was. So,
totally. So, and then also we see in the distance Heather Mooney and the cowboy just like fully making out in like a field. They're
oh
just like in
God,
a field
yeah.
next to the hotel. But they're like, "Oh, go Heather, get it." Um, and then the movie ends. They have started their own boutique, Romy and Michelle's. Sandy has loaned them money.
Is that on Rodeo Drive? It looks like it looks like it's in with other places. I couldn't tell if
Yeah.
that was meant to be portrayed as that, but
I don't
it's
think it's Rodeo Drive. I
okay.
think it's like, it's in like a shopping district downtown, but it
Yeah,
didn't
but
because Rodeo Drive,
okay.
everything's like white.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Like
So,
when
but
she went to Versace, that was on Rodeo Drive.
okay. But it looked very upscale.
Yeah, it was a very nice boutique.
Mhm.
And it's Michelle is still herself. She's like, maybe we could pay back Sandy like next week. And Romy's like, I think that's gonna take like 2 years, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
I love it. Heather is there trying on like a white dress with like sunflowers on it, which I'm like, this is
What
very much not her look.
what the hell? I was gonna say, she came out of the dressing room, a again, with a cigarette,
Yes. And they
and
said if you burn it, you buy it.
yeah. And Michelle's trying to convince her, "Oh, no, you look totally cute." And then I couldn't tell whether she was like trying to lie to her just so,
Mm.
but yeah, it was not a good look.
It didn't go, it was not her look.
Yeah.
It
And she even,
looked fine like on her body, but it was not her
right,
vibe,
right. Yeah.
not her aesthetic.
Well, she said that she goes, "This reinforces what every genetic flaw that I have for all my life."
Yes.
But she walks out with it. She says, "Well, just ring it up. I'm in
Yeah.
a hurry." So,
Yeah. It didn't look bad like she thought, but it was definitely not her style. But I love that, but they have such affection for her because they're like, it feels like I gave birth to a baby girl, but she's like big and she smokes and says shit a lot.
there's just sort of an kind of an innocence to Michelle, don't you think?
Hmm.
Or to me, it wasn't. But also that she has some very insightful moments too.
Hmm.
So she's not the bubble brain. I think that everyone. Well, and I think that maybe is part of the message that everyone thinks she is. So.
Yes, yes. And then they finish, they're like, do you want to fold scarves? And then they fold scarves and they play We Got the Beat by the Go-Go's.
Uh,
And
and
there we
Romy
go.
though is looking at like at a scarf like she's not sure how to
They're
fold
not
it.
folding them at all.
I
I was
know it's
watching that and I was like, they're just like lifting it and moving it around.
I know. So
They're just like holding scarves and making shapes. Like this is not no folding is happening here. But yeah, that's the movie. I think it's still like I still find it just as funny. I find it more funny now than I did when I was a kid because I understand. It's also like more relatable to me now because I
I
can
can
also
I can
look
see
back on
that.
high school. When I was a kid, I was like, I hadn't been to high school yet, so I had no
Oh, okay. So
frame of
when you
reference.
yeah, so
When I
yeah,
saw it,
when
I
you
was probably like 9. Like
oh,
I
okay.
was I
Oh,
was a
so
kid.
kid. So yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, a lot of the stuff I'm sure, didn't become relevant to you till much later.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
exactly.
Sandy's big notebook.
Yes. Oh my God. Oh yeah, that's
Y'all got to watch the movie to get that. So
yeah, that's how Heather knew that Sandy was into Michelle. The big notebook. Michelle did not get it, which that's a vibe that I also share with Michelle. I'm oblivious to that sort of thing.
oh, okay. So
Because
um,
it's just like not where my head's at. I'm just, living
I
life,
got you.
bopping
So
around.
mhm.
And somebody's like, oh, that person was like one time I was at the gym. First of all, I don't like being hit on at the gym because I'm like there for a reason that is to work out. And
Oh,
you're like
oh.
sweating kind of gross. And this guy was like, he was trying to get me to take my headphones off and he was making a gesture at me to take my headphones off. But
Mhm.
I thought that he was waving at me.
Oh, like, oh,
So I
yeah.
waved at him.
Oh, God.
And then like a minute or two later, I was like, oh, okay. That's what was happening.
So, did he persist or did he leave?
No, he left.
Okay.
Because I
So,
think I also walked away. Because I
okay.
was like, I think I was at the point of like cleaning off. Like I was
Okay.
done with the machine I was using.
I hope he wasn't
Um,
trying to tell you that the place was on fire.
it was not. I know that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. So
Yeah, I am oblivious to these sorts of things often. So that's another point I share with Michelle. I'm just like in my own world sometimes,
okay, it's all
just
right.
just living living life, bopping around, being happy. But yeah, so that's Romy and Michelle. I'll also say just for some additional trivia. So it was written by this woman named Robin Schiff. It was based on a play called The Ladies' Room. And so Robin Schiff was in like the Groundlings, like the comedy troupe, as was Lisa Kudrow. So Lisa Kudrow played Michelle like in the play version of
Mm,
this also.
yeah, I read that. So,
Robin Schiff also wrote the movie Loverboy with Patrick Dempsey, which
oh
is
God,
also one that I watched when I was a kid that I should not have watched when I was a kid.
no, no, no.
For
That
people who
was.
don't know, he's like a gigolo in that movie. But he pretends to be delivering pizza. But if an older woman calls and asks for pizza with extra anchovies, that means they want Patrick Dempsey. But Patrick Dempsey was like my first celebrity crush. So
That
babies.
movie.
No, not the movie. I think I watched that movie because it was rated R and I knew I shouldn't. And I was like up later than my parents, honestly.
Oh,
I
okay.
was like, this seems racy. Let me check it out. No, I Can't Buy Me Love. Anyways, so Robin Schiff also wrote that, but since then she's produced a lot of television. So here's just a few shows she has been a producer on: Rags to Riches, Working Girl, Princesses, Delta, Party of Five, Almost Perfect, Grosse Point, Mismatch, Emily in Paris, and Uncoupled. So Emily in Paris and
Oh,
Uncoupled are pretty
oh,
recent ones.
she's busy.
Yeah, she's producing everything on television apparently. The director is David Merkin, who also has done primarily television. He did do the film Heartbreakers, which I believe has Jennifer Love Hewitt and Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver. Yep.
Yeah, I was thinking Jennifer Love Hewitt.
And
This tells you our generations.
Ray Liotta
Oh yes, yes, and Gene Hackman.
and Gene
Um,
Hackman.
this is a funny generation gap because I'm trying to think of Jennifer Love Hewitt and you're trying to think of Sigourney Weaver. But yeah, but he also has done a lot of TV, like writing and producing. So
Hmm.
he wrote on Three's Company, Gary Shandling Show, Larry Sanders Show. I
Oh,
think
those are all good.
he was a showrunner on Newhart
Oh,
and Get a Life, and he also wrote the Simpsons movie.
oh, really? Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
I think obviously like a big like comedy person.
I was gonna say,
It's
yeah,
funny
good
too because
comedic
like
stuff.
his it's all comedic, but also like to do like Heartbreakers in this movie and then to be like Newhart, Gary
Mm,
Shandling, like it's.
mm.
But I do think maybe there is something like Chrissy in Three's Company does seem she would fit. She would be friends with Romeo and Michelle.
Yes, that's a good. That's a great analogy. Yeah, or a great link. Uh huh.
Because you know what I mean, like Bob Newhart
Hmm.
and Gary Shandling don't feel like
Yeah,
they live
yeah,
in the
they would.
same comedy world, but I
Hmm.
think that like a Chrissy from Three's Company does
Oh
bridge the
yeah,
gap.
very
But I
much
think
so.
the overall comedy. I also read too on the Wikipedia they wanted him to like they wanted to cut this down and take some of the stuff out, but he was like, "No, I guess they wanted to take out anything that seemed a little more edgy." But which I don't think it's that edgy.
I didn't get anything that I thought was like edgy. I mean, even
No,
now,
there's
maybe for
even like all the like sex related jokes are pretty small
I know
and like throwaway.
there's no over the top stuff. I didn't think at
No,
all. So
but apparently, who was
what
it?
rating did it come out with when it came out? Was it a PG-13?
No R.
Was it really? It was
Mm-hmm.
rated R. I mean, there's not
Mm-hmm.
even any nudity in it. You
I
know,
think
that's
probably because they say fuck so much. I think that's probably the only thing because I think
they say that on TV
In
now.
PG-13, no, they bleep it out. In PG-13, you only get like one or two F words.
Oh,
And
really?
so
Oh,
I think
okay.
it's probably for strong
Well, then I
language.
blame Janine Garofalo.
Yeah. Yeah. Touchstone initially found David Merkin's final cut of the film to be too quirky and wanted to sweeten the tone. But Merkin insisted on keeping the edgier tone. Like I said, I don't think that it's like that
I don't get that
edgy. I think it's
edgy.
just like real.
I
Like
thought it was sweet,
anything that's like
actually.
bad, I think it is mostly sweet. And anything that's like bad or quote unquote edgy is just like real, right? Like people being mean to each other. I'm sorry that happens.
Yeah, and to me, I wrote down one of my impressions was of the movie was it was funny and it was fun, but it did have a message, about
Hmm.
friendship and about being true to yourself and that sort of thing, or at least that's what I got out of it anyway. Um, it sort of gave me the same kind of feeling that Spice Girls did. It was
Hmm.
fun. It was cute. But it also had a message deep down that you are who you are, and your friends are your friends, and there's a reason for that. It's not because of how much money they make or what they do for a living, but how they treat you and how you treat them, and then how they care about you. So that sort of thing.
Yeah, no. And I think I'm going to read quotes from the writer because I think that this captures it. So basically, she wrote this play, Girls Room, and so she wrote these characters, Romy and Michelle, who she said were kind of just visually based on girls she would see going into clubs on Sunset in LA.
Hmm.
And they're like friends, they're kind of dressed alike. Um, they executives at Touchstone were looking for a female Wayne's World, and they came across this
Oh,
play.
okay.
And she didn't think, first of all, that it would translate well to a film at
To a
first, but
movie.
then, yeah, then she was thinking, okay, what if these two characters got invited to their high school reunion? And it wasn't until they fill out the questionnaire they realized their lives hadn't amount to anything, and that seemed funny to me.
Oh, well, okay.
And then she worked on the script for 5 years. So
Oh,
this
good
was a
Lord.
this was a time. And it says she based the character's relationship partly on her relationship with her best friend. Here's the quote. One day we were stuck on a plane on a tarmac and started reading the Sky Mall catalog and laughing our asses off. That was the kind of friend you want to hang out with, that even stuck on a plane on the tarmac, you can still have fun. Which that's how I feel about my friends.
Yeah. Yeah. That even if it was a crappy situation or whatever, that you still make the best of it. And
Hmm.
yeah, I can
Yeah.
see that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Lisa Kudrow was already like connected to this. And obviously she was like a big star at this point because of Friends. So that helped kind of push it forward.
Oh, okay.
And apparently Toni Collette was a strong contender to play Romy
Oh.
before they got Mira Sorvino,
Oh.
which
So
is just like, I can't, at this point, I can't imagine anybody but
no,
Mira Sorvino in that voice.
well, and one thing I spoken to you before we started recording was just their appearance of itself. They were so tall, and it
Hmm.
just they were like they did they were almost like sisters. I mean, or they could be. You look at them and you think because they were both sort of the same height and everything like that, and the same stature.
Yeah.
But you could one of the things I thought about. I think that this movie could use a good prequel. How
I
did
think
Romeo and
that there,
Michelle
I think that there
become?
is like a direct to video
Oh,
prequel.
is there? Oh, see,
Yeah.
there you go.
It's
So
like
yeah.
Romy and Michelle in the beginning, but it doesn't
Uh,
have like any of these people in it.
oh, but I thought this would be okay. So well, okay. So somebody already thought of it. That's me. I always think of the idea.
Yeah, it was a television film with Katherine Heigl played Romy,
Oh,
and the actress Alexandra Breckenridge, who's been in some other things, she played Michelle. But it was a
and it
TV
was
movie.
but it
Romy and
was like
Michelle in the beginning.
in the beginning when they first find each other and become friends. I guess so
Hmm.
because I thought that would be because I thought of Dumber and Dumberer,
But
but
in 2024, Mira Sorvino stated she and Lisa Kudrow were finalizing deals for a sequel with writer Robin Schiff returning.
no.
Yes,
Uh
because they
oh.
presented together at, was it the Oscars or the Emmys? They presented together at an award show.
I think it was the Emmys, wasn't it?
Yes.
Wasn't
And
it?
so I think that like
Oh.
got the people going, you know?
Oh.
So, but yeah.
Uh-oh.
Also, I want to say too, based on what you just said, I just read a quote that made me think of that. So when they were casting Mira Sorvino, first of all, like she was that, like you said, she was winning her Oscar for Mighty Aphrodite. The director said, it was definitely a long shot, but I heard she wanted to meet, so we had lunch and I instantly knew that she could do it. Romy and Michelle were conceived as one tall, one short, but I love the idea of Lisa and Mira playing this idiot blonde power couple. which I
Well,
think
I guess
speaks to
that's
your
one way to
point.
describe them, an idiot blonde power couple.
But yeah, I do think that them like being tall does it
Uh,
adds something.
well,
Them being the same height, like
when they walk into the after they change their clothes and everything at the end of the movie, when they walk in and like you said, they strutted into the like into the reunion, back into the reunion after
mhm,
and then bitched out the A group or whatever. That's a I think that's impressive. So
mhm.
um, I enjoyed this. I really did. I laughed at it, and I said to you, I thought the last 20 to 30 minutes of it were probably the best part and the funniest part of the movie to me.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
rest of it was good. It gave you the background and everything, but I think that all sort of pulled together, and it did it very nicely.
Yeah, I think like you said, like it's very funny and so silly and like goofy, but it does have like something there, right? There's like a heart to it.
Yeah,
Like these are people that like care about each other and like have real feelings about stuff. Um,
yeah.
and
They're
I
not
think
just drifting through life. They do have feelings, and they have ideas and stuff, and and sometimes all you need is a little nudge or a little help or a
hmm
little assistance, and
hmm
or somebody else to believe in you.
yeah. And I think like I said, I think that this feels relatable to me with like my friends. Like we can do the stupidest things together and like say the stupidest things to each other and have like the dumbest inside jokes, but also like really like count on each other,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
like be
But
there for each other. So like I have all these memories of like us being completely dumb, but also like super supportive and like there for each other. So it's like it's such a it's
yeah,
such a balance. It's a good balance, right? Like we could say and like I could say something that like happened when we were 14 and like it'll still make us laugh.
and I think those are the best kind of memories and the best kind of relationships. I really
Exactly.
do. So,
Like if
you
I
know,
say the phrase, "Hey, close the door" to my friends, we'll all start laughing because it's like a specific moment when we were like 14 that that happened.
there you go.
But I could also be like, "Hey, I need you guys to come over or whatever. Like I'm having a hard day." And that'll happen too. So,
And they'd show up.
yes,
You know,
exactly. So,
yep.
it's
With
I think that that's like a really nice part of this movie that at the end of the day there is a relationship at its center.
Well, I can see, like I said, I can see why the movie is popular, and then and looking, I guess looking at it, from years back and stuff, I can see why people thought at the time that it was a really good movie and a fun movie and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So
And I feel like it holds up. Like I
I,
don't feel like there's anything like
agreed, a
obviously
thousand
like
percent.
the fashion, but I still think it's like fun. And
I like the
also I think
fashion.
the 90s or like in early 2000s are circulating back through anyways, but
Oh yeah, everything goes
I
in
like
cycles.
it all feels still like relatable.
hmm
The only thing
Um,
is like everybody would know. People would be on Facebook and everybody would know what you're doing. So you couldn't pull up
well,
a lie
that I was gonna say, yeah, that part of
unless you
it,
have a
true.
very curated social media. That would be the only like rub.
hmm
But I really want to know what they're going to do for a sequel. But I'm very happy that the original writer is going to do it though.
So that'd
That's
be
exciting.
that'll be a must see premiere.
For sure.
So
For
yeah,
sure. So yeah,
you should grab all your high school friends.
for sure. Oh yeah, definitely.
That's a big that'd be a big well, let's see
Yes.
what this is up to.
It'll
So
be like when we were in 8th grade and we all went to see Mean Girls together,
there you go. So
which we're gonna at this point I feel like maybe that'll be the next like we're doing this, then maybe I'll do Clueless and Mean Girls for my
Mean
next
Girls.
couple. We got to hit
Um,
all the high school girl movies.
okay, all right. Um,
Because I mean, I think that probably more than anything, these have been some of the most impactful on
and
me.
well, and that's what we're doing is
Yeah.
the movies that made an impression, on us first, and then whether did it, how it impacted society or the general public is
Yeah.
second. I've
Yeah.
had people ask me, how do we select our movies? And then
hmm
is it by were they popular at the time? And I said it may seem like that with some of the movies that we've picked, but all the movies we selected is how it impacted us,
Yeah.
how we felt about it, not about how it was to the general public. I could care
Yeah.
less.
Yeah. I had someone ask if we're going to do anything recent. And I was like, we'll get there. But
Maybe, I don't, we'll see.
I think that there are recent movies that I've found impactful, but in terms of like making me who I am, the ones that I watched growing up, I think
oh, sure.
are
And
like foundational. But I think
mhm.
certainly there's always something new that can like introduce
Oh,
something new, shift a perspective,
mhm.
whatever
And
kind of thing.
I'm not saying that they, it's not like the old saw that, oh, they don't make them like they used to. No, there are still very good movies
Hmm.
being
Hmm.
made today. So,
Yeah.
but
So
we just
I have
we
some more recent ones on my list. We'll get there eventually.
I was going to say
But
we'll get there eventually. So
these are
yeah.
the foundation. But yeah, I
Exactly.
think these movies that are about teen girls, like because I was a teen girl, like this
Yeah.
is just like this is what it means to be like friends and what it means to like be funny and like cool and fashionable and like live a life when you
Hmm.
grow up kind of thing. Like this is and also like what is like lessons to learn about it, you
Hmm.
know? So
So,
I think these kind of movies, I think that they just feel relatable to me in that way. And I don't know, maybe to some people that's like basic, but that's fine. Because it just I think some of these things are just universal, right? And I think there's probably things even, you were never a teenage girl, but like you said, you people reminisce on high school and think about
hmm.
what it was like and who was mean to them or who they had a crush on or like whatever. Like everybody has these thoughts of like, and occasionally we have moments of like, what do other people think of me?
Oh,
And
sure.
am I putting for like,
Yeah.
is
Or
this the image I want to be putting forth? Am I living up to like what people thought I would do?
that's a big one. I was just going to say, am I meeting expectations?
Yeah.
And not of just other people around you, but of your parents and
Hmm.
and your family.
Yeah.
You know,
I think about that sometimes. I was like salutatorian in high school, so I'm like, oh my God, am I
mhm.
like being like a smart enough person, like
Sure.
what you think a smart person should be doing? Am I doing that? But then it's
Well,
like also like who cares?
well, part of one of the lines in the movie, and we sort of made fun of it a little bit, but Alan's coming response, she says, "Oh, I guess you're the most successful person in our class," and he says, "I guess it depends on how you define success."
Yeah, that's
And
true.
then yeah, it may, yeah, like he said, it could be all the material things, but then like he said, he wasn't successful for himself because he didn't have her, or her affection or her love.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Yeah.
there are
Although
people
there is
who
a part of me that's like, move on.
oh, come on now, there's got to be a little romance in our lives. Come on, there has to be that romantic part, you
Is it
know
at one point, like at one point, does romance end though? Like if someone says no to you every single time you ask them, is it still romance? Or are you
that dream,
stalking
I
them a
don't
little
know,
bit?
that dream's hard to die, I think sometimes, but there are, we I think we've all gone through the heartbreaks of high
Yeah.
school and so on and so forth, and maybe some people carry
Hmm.
that torch a little too long and a little too
Yeah.
brightly,
Yeah.
but others do move on, but hey, if he, if that was Sandy's, that was his one thing that he never attained, or never obtained, or never reached his goal. You could be smart and successful and rich, but if you don't have that person to share it with, that sort
Yeah.
of thing. So
Yeah. Could be.
maybe. So anyway, so
Could be. Well, everybody get out your yearbooks. Look
yeah.
back at high school. Reminisce a little bit.
And well, this brought up my, like I said, next year is my 50th anniversary, 50th high school reunion. So I'm
That's
looking forward to
wild.
that. Yeah, I know I can still be talking to my dad going to his 50th high school reunion, and then
Wow.
and then now it's mine. So yeah, and we're in discussion about it. Like I said, the plans are being made. That we have a committee and everything. I'm not on it,
Nice.
but we
Yeah.
communicate with everybody, and they ask, where do we want it, and
Mhm.
it's always going to be in our hometown. But
Yeah.
what do we want to do? I didn't go to a couple in between, but I've been probably to most of them. So
Mhm.
whenever I could.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, we didn't. The last one I was at was the 40th, and then the
Mhm.
45th we didn't have because of COVID.
Mhm.
So, but I'm
Yeah.
I'm definitely planning on being there for the 50th.
If my
So,
class put something on that was like organized, I would go to it. But
I will say that the people that put on ours, they do a very good job. It's well organized, and it's well planned, and it's very nice. Every year it's very nice. So
Yeah.
the decorations and everything, and we all have the name tags and stuff, and
Hmm. Like
everybody
Toby
goes.
Walters is like,
You,
put on your name tag.
yeah, we have there's a group of there's four of them that set up the committee, and they take care of all that. So and
Yeah.
they send out things. Where are you? Like, update us so we have stuff
You
for
fill
you.
out the little thing
We fill out the
and
little
you're like, oh
thing.
my God, I don't have a job.
I think I might put that one down this
Yeah.
time. Yeah,
Put down freelance fashion consultant.
exactly. I thought about that. Yeah, that or I
I
invented
invented
post-its.
Post-it. Um,
Yeah.
I
So,
did go back to my high school a couple years ago because they're like doing the whole thing, like
mhm.
rehabilitating the whole building. So they let people come. They had like a thing for alumni to come, like walk
Oh,
around for
oh,
the
that's
because it's
nice.
the last time it's gonna
Yeah,
look
that it's going to look like
like
that.
that. So I did see a lot of people I went to high school with there.
Did you?
Yeah,
Okay.
me and one of my friends and my mom went because I went to the same high school as my parents.
Oh, okay. So,
So it was nice. Saw lots of people. A couple teachers were still there. Saw
oh
other
my.
like, yeah. I mean, I'm not that old.
No, no, no. But I'm just saying that oh, you went during the school year, I guess,
It was, yeah,
or
I think, or like right
right
after.
after. So,
I mean, they were like running the thing. They were handing
mhm.
out name tags.
Oh, okay. Oh, nice. It's nice. So,
So yeah,
oh no,
because
I
I think
was,
you had to
yeah,
register because I had my little
yeah.
Lindsay Wilson.
I was
Oh
gonna
wait,
say you're not that far away from Romy and Michelle's 10th. I mean, come on
no,
now. Yeah.
no,
So,
I'm just past my 15th,
yeah.
so
So, yeah. Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not too far away. But yeah, it was, and like everybody like looks the same. I saw a bunch of people that I went to high school with. But yeah, it's always just it's a little strange to like
Hmm.
go back and reminisce. And again, like just think about the things that seemed like such big deals at the time
Oh God, that
are
was
just
like,
like so silly.
yeah, our biggest concern was who are we going to ask to the dance, or who are we going to, or how
Hmm.
are we going to do on the algebra test, or
Oh
did
my
I
God.
study for the history
The
exam?
drama. It was just like everything in high school just felt like so because
Oh
that's
yeah.
like that was your life, right? Like that
Oh,
was it.
exactly. Yeah.
So it all just felt so like consequential. And then now I'm like, oh my God, how silly.
Well,
But it's kind of, it's kind of nice to like live in that drama a little bit.
well, at that time, that was the big, deals in your life.
Yeah.
We didn't have to worry about holding a job or paying the mortgage or
Hmm.
whatever it may be.
Hmm.
So yeah. So
Yeah.
we
So
had to focus our energy and hormones on something. So so
exactly, exactly. Just to
well,
put all our attention for the, oh my God, the random people that we dated. Although I will say there's no one that I dated in high school that I look at like Romy looks at Billy Christensen that I look at and go like, oh,
no, okay,
no,
okay,
in
well,
any case. We live and we learn.
exactly, and
Um,
life goes on. So
yes, yes. And I think that is the lesson of Romy and Michelle. So I think everybody watch this movie, get out your yearbooks,
oh
reminisce,
yeah.
live in the nostalgia a little bit, look up the people you had crushes in high school, look them up on Facebook and be like, ew, dodged a bullet. Um, and
And
just
listen to the music from your high school years.
yes, yes. I still do
Yeah,
that constantly.
me too. I'm stuck in the '60s and the '70s. So
Yeah, I'm stuck
and
in the early 2000s. I suspect the music we're listening to from high school is of a very different character,
I'm sure
but
it is, but that's okay. So we can all learn to appreciate different genres. It's just that what our preferences.
exactly.
I can hear a song and it'll take me right back to 1974, 75, and I'm
100%,
I'm wearing my
100%.
platform shoes and doing whatever. So
That's how I felt watching like the Usher Super Bowl halftime show. That was a lot of like
oh,
music from
okay.
when I was in high school.
Hmm.
So like people my age, we were
Hmm.
living.
So mine was when the Rolling Stones did the halftime
Okay.
show. So that
Okay.
was that back in the
Hmm.
day. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think we've kind of covered it.
yeah, I got to tell you, for my generation, I think it's a fun and good movie to watch, and it's an enjoyable one. So, and I think people, will recognize a lot of the actors that are in this movie.
Yeah,
And if you don't, you've
absolutely.
been living in a cave.
For
So
sure, for
get
sure.
out.
Or you were like just born. like
Yeah,
3
that
weeks
could
ago.
be too. Yeah, you might be
Um,
15 years old.
but I think
So,
even like 15-year-olds now, like they watch Friends, so they know who Lisa Kudrow is.
yeah,
Stream
probably. Yeah.
Friends.
Yeah, if nothing else, yeah. Or
Right.
watch Law and Order and you'll see, Catherine Manheim being a badass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
She's not Toby.
Exactly. Yeah, and watch Traders, you know who Alan Cumming is. He's in the fun outfits. Alrighty, well, with that, thank you all for listening. Please, leave a comment, leave a review, hopefully something nice and positive. Follow us on Instagram at Some of Our Parts Pod. You can see all the other movies that we've talked about. You can get little clues of what's coming next. And bye bye.
Take care.